Well, again, welcome everyone. So grateful to have you on the call, or if you're listening to the recording after this live session, just really grateful to have you here with us today. Today, in our Unboxing Growth series, we are talking about positioning and messaging for fundraising. And, again, huge thanks to Leadership Global and the C-Suite Network for supporting us, sponsoring this and this session, and allowing us to come to you with and give back our knowledge. So I wanted to jump into the Leadership Global Credo because I think it's a beautiful thing to set the foundation for our conversation today. And so in this conversation today and moving forward, as we navigate in support of each other in leadership, we want to encourage you with the Leadership Credo, which is cultivate authentic relationships. Jump in, get to know each other, cultivate these relationships. They're here for you to help you grow your business and yourself as a person. Act with courage, really be unabashedly visible, dedicate yourself to your path when you're manifesting, and we can co-manifest with you. That's a beautiful thing. Continue to be a lifelong learner. We are, and clearly you all are, because you're on calls like this. And let's be sure to celebrate each other. So thank you, Linda, for creating that beautiful credo, because I think it really sets the groundwork for and the foundation for having these conversations. And I also want to add that this is a safe place. This is a safe place to ask questions. There are no bad questions, and I really want you to feel comfortable asking any and every question that you may have around the topic area that we're talking about today, or really anything related to marketing. Okay, so a little bit about the organization that I come from. It's Outfront Solutions is the name of my firm, and that's one of the hats that I wear, and I'll get into the other hats that I wear in a moment. But Outfront Solutions, we're a branding, marketing, business development, and global expansion firm, and we're really focused on helping companies grow and increase valuation. Everything we do is focused on making sure that you're really building value in your company, because that's important. If you're interested in an exit, that's important for basically all aspects of what you're doing. And we find great joy standing along visionaries and entrepreneurs, and even intrapreneurs at large organizations, to help drive purpose and results. And you see this image here, and it's our ikigai, which is a Japanese term for reason for being. And I think it nicely portrays the concentric circles of all the different things that we do at our firm. And you'll see that results and purpose are in the center. And we're really dedicated to helping those organizations that are purpose driven, and we are as well. We really share that, and then we take on your purpose, which is really a beautiful part of the journey. Okay. So in a busy marketplace, not standing out is the same as being invisible. So I think that sets the tone for our conversation today about positioning and messaging. We really all need to really stand out and be visible, and how you're visible in your positioning and messaging is really, really important. So what we'll be covering today is the fundraising imperatives, importance of positioning, all about messaging. Why does it truly matter in the fundraising realm? And then I would like to make sure that you have time for asking questions. So we will have a healthy amount of time to to uh, uh, get into discussion. Okay, for some reason I cannot advance my slide. Just do it this way. Okay, good. Okay, so I wear a number of different hats, and I've sat on multiple sides of the table. So you just heard about my firm, Outfront Solutions, where I've been standing alongside entrepreneurs for decades, 25 years actually. And in my career, I have helped other entrepreneurs or even raised for myself over $500 million. So I did the math and I sat back and I thought, wow, okay, I've raised a few dollars over the years to help organizations grow. And in that, I will share absolutely everything I know. Brings me such great joy to be in service this way. And because of all these learnings, I've done my best to pack them into a bit of an outline for today, but I consider this a conversation. So please connect with me on LinkedIn, connect with us at Outfront, and let's continue the conversation. The other hat that I wear, and I'm actually going to switch hats because why not? Just make sure you're awake and paying attention. So the other hat that I wear is I'm in venture capital. I have been an investor and advisor for also decades. So early in my career, I took equity stakes in companies. And when I was doing so, and that was in the 90s with technology companies, in doing that, I got a whole different level of exposure as to what it was to grow a company and impact the valuation. And so taking that ride with entrepreneurs was very enlightening. And I was incented differently. You know, it wasn't about delivering positioning and messaging and, you know, maybe doing some media relations or rolling out a go-to-market strategy. I had, you know, a stake in it. And I really got to love and appreciate what it is to have equity in companies outside of the ones that I work for or that I started myself. And so I got to know a lot of people in venture capital. So I have a heck of a network now, not only in Silicon Valley, but also globally. I've worked in Berlin and Turkey and in many different places in the world. And I really got a taste for being in venture. And so consequently, in the last years, I have also started venture capital funds. I've marketed them for many, many years, and some of the biggest venture capital funds in the world, one of which is Early Bird Venture Capital. That's one of the largest funds in Europe. And I literally launched them into the global market. They're absolutely crushing it. Their funds are absolutely massive. They have over $1 billion under money management. And then also recently just launched Fund 2 for Griffin Gaming Partners. This is a venture capital fund focused on the gaming market, and they reached over $1 billion under money management with Fund 2. So have done a lot of marketing for and with funds. And then I thought, you know what? There are a lot of markets that are underserved. And I need to step forward myself and make sure that we're funding everyone that, you know, is seeking funding, that we're not only looking at, you know, these teams of a lot of time men who have had track record success, but, you know, let's jump in and take a look at female founded businesses. And so I helped to start a fund called How Women Invest. which is a venture capital fund, which is part of the How Women Lead ecosystem. So How Women Invest, we're raising Fund 2 right now. Fund 1 already had an exit 2 weeks ago, and that we launched during COVID and in record time. We closed the fund in 6 months. So I just wanted to say that I sit on both sides of the table. I am constantly helping companies look at positioning and messaging themselves. I'm also looking at investment opportunities as a fund advisor, and I am a LP, which is a limited partner investing in the fund, right? And then the last hat that I wear is I am also a venture partner for a new fund called Seed Milestone Fund. And we're investing in kind of more of the logistics in supply chain sector. And that touches a lot of people in the center of the country a lot of times. And those are very underserved markets. And so anyway, I'll be making an announcement about that later, but we're raising that fund currently. So sitting on both sides of the table as venture investor and fundraiser. So a couple of things I wanted to start off with is what I wish I knew at the beginning when I was starting to raise funds myself or help others in raising funds. I wish I knew which venture capital funds and investors truly honored women. Today, we have much greater visibility into that. And I am always offering to make sure to connect you with those who are investing in women. We, of course, are investing in women as How Women Invest, but there is now a greater and greater ecosystem. And I think it's important that we know that who's investing in women and or underserved markets. I wish I knew more about the due diligence process when I first started off. Putting together your due diligence packet is not a trivial thing. It's really, really important part of the journey. And to know what goes into a due diligence packet or data room is really, really important. And the positioning and messaging and go-to-market strategy is a very important part of due diligence, really. I wish I knew how to really nurture an investor relations program. There is a lot to that. Staying in constant communication with potential investors or current investors, because 9 times out of 10, they're the foundation of your network. They will be recommending you to other potential investors and keeping them abreast of all that you're doing. And even little tiny milestone traction points is really important. So I wish I knew more about investor relations and that dance earlier on. What I wish I understood, what were the most important things to have in the data room. Having in your due diligence packet or your data room, you need to have agreements and contracts and, your go-to-market strategy and, all these different things. And so it's really important to have a very solid packet and data room. It shows that you as an entrepreneur have a very well, thought out, operationally sound business. And so your data room is really, really important. I wish I understood how important leadership is to venture capital and or any investors, and your participation in organizations like Leadership Global and C-Suite Network and all that you do as a full leader, that it's so important to tell that part of your story, and we'll touch on that moving forward. I wish I understood the importance of documentation really tracking and documenting, this journey. It's important to feed that back into investor relations. It's important to, have to, tell your story and to continue to impart knowledge for those who continue to join your team and join you on this journey. And also, I wish I knew how investors were incented. So we're all incented, right? Even wearing a venture capital hat, I'm incented as a VC by my LPs, limited partners that invest in the fund. And they're typically incented by their communities. So those could be endowments, those could be, all kinds of diverse groups. So we're all incented in some different ways. And VCs have, and most investors also have someone to answer to. So, so that's a really important part of the understanding of fundraising, is really understanding the whole value chain and or ecosystem. So here's what investors want to know. They want to quickly understand what you're proposing. So having some sort of framework is really important. And that's why I have our Ikigai. It tells you exactly what I do. It's a framework. It shows you all my services and how I go to market. So having a framework of what you're proposing is really important. Your assets are super important. Your story, your team, your employees, your tech, what is it that you have and that you're bringing to the table for your venture? It's really super important to connect the dots with your story and your career, all the different facets of who you are as a leader that makes sense to the current venture. It's super important that you're telling that story and that you are telling the story of team. Typically, I'm sure you're probably earlier stage investors, so seed A, even B, the investors are investing in the team very, very strongly. And so telling the team story and track record there is really important. What are the reasons to invest or acquire your business? It's funny, we may take that for granted that, that needs to be there. What are the growth opportunities? What is that reason to invest? Is it also going to be fulfilling for them because it's strategic and it's a industry or something that they are passionate about? So really giving these potential investors every possible reason that they personally would want to invest, or reasons that your business could be acquired. You need to tell your story of scalability and convey your value propositions clearly, and we'll get into a little bit more about that. You need to be honest and forthright about challenges, solutions, and offerings, right? Paint that whole picture. What is it that could potentially get in your way? What are your offerings? How is it that you can build a moat around them, right? What is the market traction and validation that you've had so far? Typically, you have some points of validation. So conveying those, whether it's as far as an LOI or contracts or customer engagements where you have revenue traction, or if it's even intent, right? You've surveyed, you've gone out and had conversations, you have advisors that are in your market, and that can show market validation as well. So that's really important. Why now? Why now is a good time to invest? What is the urgency behind what you're doing and bringing to market? It's imperative that you speak to the competition and differentiation. We'll get to that in a moment, but that is absolutely an imperative with positioning, so that you're understood contextually where you fit into the marketplace, outlining the business model. What are your revenue streams? You know, how are you going to monetize your market and go to market? Your go-to-market strategy is important. And I've even needed to provide a like literally month by month or quarter by quarter go-to-market strategy to convey the use of funds. So having really clear go-to-market strategy is super important, and that's one of those pieces that should be in the data room. What are some notable achievements that lead up to you being the right person to invest in, right? Anything you've authored. Even I put on my LinkedIn that I did a trek where I went over 18,000 feet, right? That shows that I'm a dedicated person and that, you know, I persevere and I'm resilient. So what are some notable achievements that, you know, paint a full picture of you as a leader? Of course, you need to have your financials and be really clear with not only the market opportunity, but, you know, any traction you've had so far and showing that traction. And then show your vision. You know, they want to see. So I always like to, in talks like this, shine a light on the many different ways that you can raise money, because a lot of times people just go directly to thinking it's only angel investments, it's only venture capital. No, there are so many different ways to raise. And I just put some of them on this slide. So it's friends and family, it's things like Angels List, it's crowdfunding. There are all kinds of platforms to raise money. There's raising money through the government and grants. There are platforms like Hello Alice. We actually invested in them as How Women Invest. But they have all kinds of different resources for raising money, you know, building your organization operationally, marketing, all kinds of stuff. So they're a great organization in support of especially underserved communities. So it can be vets, women, you name it. They have just a ton of resources for entrepreneurs. Incubators and accelerators. People forget, you know, a lot of times they'll make a 25, you know, 50 grand investment in your business, and you're surrounded by knowledgeable people or people you can collaborate with that may be supportive of other aspects of your business. So that's a great way to go. There's debt. Raise money through debt. You don't even have to give away any equity, and taking loans. And I'm going to come back to not getting any funding in a moment as well. With angels and strategic investors, one of the really key things that I want to shine a light on is how important it is to really demonstrate that you understand the market and tell a story as to how they can amplify what you're doing. All investors have egos. They want to know that they're making an impact on your business, and they want their capital to be meaningful. So if you can paint a picture as to how they can truly step in a meaningful way and amplify your business or add value to it, that is a great way to appeal to angels and strategic investors. And with strategic investors, obviously you want to make sure that your business models, your values are aligned, because there are a lot of organizations out there that will make a strategic investment and it'll be good for them and the industry as a whole. And, you know, there's a lot of ways that you can tell that story. And then with venture capital, just, you know, just a warning that, you know, that going into raise through venture capital is no cakewalk. I represented a company and went out with this female founder, and we did 150 meetings before we got funded. Now, of course, it was a couple of the first people that we spoke with, but they need to see significant traction and success with you as a founder, past successes that really lead up to how and why you will be successful with this venture. And 9 times out of 10, they're looking for 10x to 10x their money. And so because they're, making bets on, X amount of people that they'll invest in with their portfolio, and they need a couple of them to hit for the fund to pay off. So, they're looking for 10x scalability. And I also just want to remind you that you don't have to always think about raising money, right? There is the route of bootstrapping, and positioning and messaging. This still applies, right? So let's get into some of the imperatives for positioning. Of course, it's so important that you know your market opportunity better than anyone. You can spout off the statistics about your total addressable market, your serviceable available market, your TAM, SAM, and SOM, serviceable attainable market as well. This is you demonstrating that you know that there is a significant market out there. And it doesn't always play well to say, okay, there's this huge market out there. No, you got to keep going a couple layers deeper and say, you know what? We understand that we think we can reach this serviceable addressable market, and then we think we can obtain this part of the market. So super, super important to nail your TAM, SAM, and SOM, okay, in your storytelling and in your positioning. And this market decides, right? This market decides your success. And this is typically your greatest area where you need to position, right? So with positioning, it's so important to have a differentiated place that really can occupy a unique place in the mind of all your different stakeholders, your investors, your customers, your employees, right? And so positioning is in with clarity and in a differentiated way is really, really super important. So I just wanted to give an example of a client that we worked with called Spike Games. And what I wanted to say is that with Spike Games, we positioned to where they wanted to go, not to the company that we were positioning that day, right? So with Spike Games, we decided that they're a social mobile gaming company, right? And they build mobile games, super fun, that delight players all over the world. So this was the positioning that we came up with for them. And when we went to market with them, we literally positioned from day one that they are a unicorn in the making, right? So that's what we mean by position to where the puck is going. And so we thought, we backed into what is it that a unicorn needs to convey, right? To raise that level of capital, reach that level of revenue. Well, they needed to convey their incredible track record, right, as leaders. And so the whole approach was to put this unicorn brand halo across everything that they do. And for them, the opportunity was, massive social connectivity. They had a previous exit that was successful. They were setting out to create joyful, emotional experiences. We could have just said, they're a games company and they create interesting properties. But no, we literally came to specific terms of creating joyful, emotional experiences. It's a much more visceral way of describing what it is that the end player gets from this, casual social game, right? We also wanted to align with the diversity and inclusion of the audience. So with their games, they're reaching a female market, in mobile gaming, actually in gaming across the world. There is 50% women are playing games, and the kind of core games, they hide behind fake names because they don't always want to show up as being a female in those environments. But women are a huge part of the gaming community. And so in positioning the company and the value proposition to the market, we needed to reflect our alignment with, creating experiences that women find joy in, as well as, showing the, full range of diversity, also even in the team, because one of their goals was to attract top talent. And so we wanted to appeal to the market and show that we are a diverse team. And so that was an important part of the approach as well. And then this particular company was based in Turkey. And so a lot of times the media in the United States, they have a bit of a bias if you're not, based in the United States. And so we needed to tell the story of why Turkey made sense, and why, this Turkish ecosystem is feeding the global market. So the markets that they targeted were attracting talent. They needed to continue to appeal to the investment community. They needed to appeal to media and influencers, partners. So those are others that are going to publish their games globally, and game players. So it's important when you're going through the process of positioning and messaging, you're thinking about all your different audiences. And that may feel a little overwhelming. And you may think to yourself, can I find one position that is going to appeal to all of these different audiences? And yes, you absolutely can. It's a lot of times it's digging into what is it that's unique and different that you're bringing to the world, right? And what is it that these different markets are going to understand? And then you're paying off your position with your messaging, and we'll talk about that later. So for Spike Games in particular, these are the different pillars or areas of positioning and the platform that we took. So when it came to leadership and talent, we wanted to convey that they had a culture of autonomy and they had aspirational leaders. When it came to speaking to the social mobile games community, we wanted to convey the stickiness and social connectivity. In gaming and entertainment, we wanted to convey, and this is also a positioning that impacted and supported the unicorn brand Halo, is that they were on mobile today, but metaverse and additional mediums tomorrow, right? So they weren't just solely focused on mobile, that they're building forever franchises. This is a term that another gaming company came up with. We just owned it. We stepped forward and we said, from day one, we're building forever franchises. Those are larger, those are higher grossing games, and we're creating joyful emotional experiences, right? Because there's confidence in the team that that's what we're creating. And so that's what we conveyed to the market out of the gate, and that we're focused on diversity and inclusion. So we're aligning our team with the marketplace, and we're making sure that we're creating products that are inclusive to the entire market. Well, the good news is, on the fundraising, we ended up just, garnering 164 different articles. And the reason why it was because of the positioning and messaging. We went out of the gate telling a story of possibility, of where the puck was going, of the fact that we had this leadership team, right? We had, this capability of building these forever franchises. We had to give the media that we worked with, and the marketplace in general reasons to believe. And so that positioning was really key. The other thing that we did that was really important was that we partnered with the investors to allow us to convey the funding in ways that they supported. So, they had raised money and we were calling it an A round, and they didn't even have a product in the market. So we went back to the investors and we said, can we call this a seed so that when we're telling this story, it's a bigger round, and it's showing that it's an even earlier bet on the team. And anyway, it's just really wonderfully successful. I'm so happy to say, and it's a female CEO, which also feels really good. And she was record breaking. So that was another thing that we did. We highlighted the fact that this was a record breaking go to market. So that was just, a little around how positioning to the future is so important. And then and a little example around positioning, and we can talk about that, in our discussion. I want to kind of run through things quickly here to leave more time for conversation. But with messaging, messaging then supports your market position, right? And so it's really important to get down to the clear and concise way of describing what it is that you're bringing to market and your value propositions, and to pay off your positioning, right? And so it needs to be not only the words, but also how it makes people feel when they hear your messaging, and also the visuals that go with it. So positioning and messaging across the board it's really important to make sure you're really holding up that market position that you've arrived at. So here are a couple of do's and don'ts. Be confident. Explain your business. You have to get sick of explaining your business. You've done it 10,000 times. You need to keep doing it, because branding is challenging. It's a noisy marketplace, and you need to repeat yourself over and over again. So it's really, really important that you're clearly explaining what your business is and what is your ask. What are you asking from investors or the marketplace? What is the call to action, right? Super important to pull that through in your messaging. Be confident, be clear and concise, focus on success. What are those elements that really continue to drive you forward? And always have super strong headlines. We've done. And, don't expect them to fall in love with your idea. You may need to go back and kind of calibrate your positioning and messaging. The market decides. And so you'll know, how things are landing by asking and being open to listening. And I think one of the most important things about messaging and positioning is being willing to listen. And being willing to listen if it's not landing too, because you get to course correct when that's the case, right? And then of course, be careful about using flowery prose, because a lot of times we don't necessarily have enough to substantiate it. And in this world, people just don't believe it. There are a lot of skeptics. So here are the different messaging elements. You want to have concise descriptions. Those are 50, 100, 200 word descriptions that are consistent and that you're putting out into the world regularly. They're at the bottom of your email signature. They're, all over your website. I mean, these descriptions of your business are really important to just have over and over again. You want to make sure that you have clear value propositions, just a few, 3, 5, something like that, that really show, tell your story. You want to make sure that you have customer personas and you're speaking to the challenges and how they navigate in the world. Of course, your messaging needs to be benefit and feature laden. It's really great to also show processes and capabilities in your messaging. A lot of times people leave that out. Of course, amplify the team, especially in early fundraising. Point to successes and results and what is the timeliness. So here's just an example of a basic rudimentary message map where you might have a top line message at the across overarching, and this was a messaging and positioning for a client of ours who is a leadership coach, actually, and she needed to convey the value of what she was bringing forward. And so basically, you have this overarching statement, two supporting statements. What is it that she brings uniquely to these teams and organizations that she serves? And then you want to have a number of proof points that roll up and support the second tier messages. So, in this case of this leader, she's worked with really amazing organizations like Toyota Research Institute. And that's another model of a business that she wanted to continue working with. And then more about her leadership. She's, on these different boards, right? So messaging really is the workhorse. It can help you stimulate demand. It converts people from just having interest into taking action. You're addressing people's questions and anticipating their questions and providing answers and anticipating what their objections might be. It helps to broaden and inspire other conversation. If you're bringing up a topic like diversity and inclusion in gaming, like, why would you bring that up? Well, it's important, right, in the marketplace, and it inspires additional conversation. It provides context. It's really important that you're just super inconsistent and sick of your message because you've given it so consistently for so long, and it helps people know and trust you. So